Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Nerd Herders. I'm Rich.
And I'm Nick.
And today we have quite an episode this week.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy week.
Got a lot going on. But first, we are drinking an extra big episode. An extra big week calls for an extra big beer. Today we're drinking the Walking Dead Blood Orange IPA. This is from Terrapin.
Mm-hmm.
Red India Pale brewed with blood orange peel.
It's got a little zombie
turtle guy on
Walker
it.
turtle.
Yeah.
So we got a Walking Dead beer. So I wonder what we might talk about later in the week. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
But let's try this one.
Cheers. It's interesting.
Interesting. Blood orange. I was going to say I taste some orange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taste some blood, taste some orange.
There's a little bit of blood in there.
Yeah.
Yep. It's an all-girl factory. Make it once a month.
Yep.
Alright. So.
As always,
Yes.
start off with the news.
Yes.
We switch back and forth every week. Today, this is your week.
It's my week.
So what are the top news stories of the week?
Alright, so first thing. Okay, this is a pretty interesting one. Shouldn't be too long of a discussion,
Alright.
but I know that it's something that you like, it's something that I like, but I don't watch anymore. But The Simpsons had some news this week.
Oh, yeah.
The Simpsons is going to be doing a partially live episode coming up in May. And people might be like, a live cartoon, what does that mean? Well, it's going to be an animated Homer that Dan Castellaneta does basically
motion capture
improv for 5 minutes at the end of an episode. Taking Twitter questions. What do you think?
I think it's a cool idea. I mean, I've seen some artists Facebook like, oh, the Simpsons are out of ideas, they're doing this, they're doing that. I mean, they've been on for...
Since 1989.
Yeah, they've been on for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
There comes a point where it's like, okay, let's try something new. This kind of reminds me of the Arrested Development joke that they did where they're like, it's going to be a live episode,
right, yeah.
And they do like these just like split-second live segments and things.
Yeah.
I'm very interested to see how they do it.
Yeah, it sounds cool.
I
I don't even think it's all that gimmicky. It sounds like a neat idea. Gimmicky TV was a thing in the like late 90s, early 2000s. Like I remember like you had to like go to your local like grocery store to get like 3D glasses for like 3D ABC Tuesday comedy like with Drew Carey and stuff like in 3D, and they did live episodes of Drew Carey too. It was all Drew Carey doing ridiculous things. This sounds cool. If anybody's ever been to, have you ever been to the Monsters Inc. laugh floor at Magic Kingdom? That's how I picture it being. You know, like they have the animated monster and it will talk and interact with the audience and like answer questions. So it's just somebody behind the thing and the mouth moves.
Yeah.
That's what I think it's going to be like. It's just the first time it's been done in television with animation.
Yeah, it's a cool idea.
It's a neat idea. I'm open to see how it goes. But again, I haven't watched a new episode of The Simpsons in like 4 years.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of this season or last season, but I'll sit down and watch it, which is their thing. It's like, oh, we got to get people to watch again.
Right.
So
interesting. More TV news.
Okay.
We got some interesting developments on the upcoming CBS Star Trek show.
Ooh.
And that news is that Bryan Fuller, who was the showrunner on Hannibal, as well as showrunner of Pushing Daisies and Wonder Falls.
Okay.
He's going to be doing it, and I think that this is awesome news.
Yep.
Bryan Fuller got his start as one of the writers on Star Trek Voyager, so he's familiar with Star Trek. He has a past. He did a couple episodes of Deep Space Nine, but yes.
Yeah, this kind of put me on board for Star
Yes.
Trek. Like we talked about it before, I was just kind of like, do we really need more Star Trek? Do we need this? Do we need that? And then I love Hannibal, so having him attached, I'm like, I'm on board.
Everything that he does that I am familiar with, I have really, really liked, except for the 2-hour Munsters reboot that he was going to be doing. Did you ever see the pilot?
No.
Yeah, ABC was gonna showrun a remake of the Munsters. Eddie Izzard was Herman Munster, and Bryan Singer directed the 2-hour premiere, and they showed it as like just like a TV
Bryan
movie.
Fuller.
No, but Bryan
Oh,
Singer.
Bryan Singer. Oh,
Bryan
okay.
Singer directed the
Oh,
pilot
okay.
that Bryan Fuller was the showrunner of, and you can find it. They aired it on ABC after it wasn't picked up. It's awful. But besides that, Bryan Fuller is awesome. We don't know anything else about that show. All that we know is it's not going to air on CBS. It's only going to air on CBS's CBS All Access, or whatever it's called, their like streaming platform, which is weird. So basically you're going to have to pay to watch this show.
And they're going to come out in 6 months and be Star Trek killed CBS All Access.
Maybe, yeah. We don't know. The other big unknown about it is what timeline will it take place in. Will it take place in the new timeline that was created with the new Star Trek movies, or back in the old one?
That's true.
Or an entirely third new one? That would be confusing. Maybe,
Yeah.
Maybe not for Star Trek fans, but for if you're trying to capture casual.
So I almost feel like it has to be something happening during the timeline that the new movies have set up, but not those characters.
It really could be anything at this point. What would be interesting, because my favorite Star Trek cast is the Next Generation cast, and not just the actors, but the characters. So if it was a Next Generation reboot in the new timeline,
That could be interesting.
could be, but something entirely new would be good too.
Yeah,
Anyway, I'm excited about that, so now you're on board for Star Trek.
definitely.
Cool. Alright, we're going to talk a lot about Deadpool later in the week,
Yes.
but part of the fallout of Deadpool being so successful was instantly what happens next, and we're going to talk about that too. But one of the pieces of news was over the weekend, Todd McFarlane said that he's writing an R-rated Spawn sequel. Thoughts? Do you want this? Do we need this? Do we need another Spawn movie?
I mean, I'm okay with it. Is it a sequel or is it a reboot?
Unclear.
Okay. I mean, I haven't seen Spawn probably since it came out. And I remember,
It's been a while.
I remember enjoying it, but I was also like
Right, exactly.
young when it came out.
I
So I
enjoyed
don't
it
know.
too. I think that we were probably wrong. The reviews are terrible on that movie.
Yeah, I was like, I remember thinking, oh, this is cool, and John Leguizamo was like the Satan clown or whatever he was, and I'd read a couple of the comics and stuff, and I was like, this is like really cool, and
It might be neat to have more Spawn. And we're going to talk more about like what happens next with superhero movies and R-rated and stuff. Stay tuned for that. But I hope that they're doing it for the right reasons and not just like, oh, well, let's just make more R-rated. Let's just capitalize on this.
like if you're gonna do Spawn, I almost think now would be like this is a decent time to do it, where the public seems to be more receptive of an R-rated superhero. You know, Watchmen, Deadpool, all this stuff. Again, we'll get into more of the R-rated superhero stuff in a different segment. But now is the time where they're willing to even put more care into these types of movies. Where like in the 90s, it was probably just like, oh, we have this Spawn thing, just figure it out, make it happen. And now with the internet and people more passionate and more vocal about these kind of things, they might do it justice. If the first one didn't, I don't know.
Maybe do a Dawn of Justice.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Spawn
I think
show
it would
up
definitely have the potential to be more serious. But maybe they would go for more campy again.
Yeah.
Because that's what Deadpool was. I don't know what they're going to do with the Deadpool stuff. We'll talk more about it. But Spawn movie, it's probably going to happen. Another one.
I'm alright with it.
Alright, 2 more quick things.
Cool.
A couple weeks ago, we talked about the DC Rebirth. And some news came out about it this week in two separate segments. So about a week ago, right after probably we did the news segment last week, it was tweeted out that it is like there had been the initial tweet that was like a blue curtain and it said Rebirth, and everybody was like, oh my god, they're rebooting their entire comic line again. And we talked about that.
We brought that up too.
And then they retweeted that picture with the Rebirth, but then below it it said, not a reboot.
So in case there's any question.
Then people are like, what does that mean? And then today in a lengthy interview, Jeff Johns, who's one of the like head, he was like their acclaimed comic book writer, an all-star comic book writer a few years ago, and then he grew like kind of in stature. I think he's the head of like DC Media now or something like that is his title. He's the one that is supposedly co-writing Wonder Woman just died. He's co-writing the solo Batman movie with Ben Affleck. He wrote a bunch of episodes of Flash and stuff. He had a long interview about what Rebirth is, and so this is what it is. It is not a reboot, but it is also kind of a relaunch. Every comic is getting put back to number one, with the exception of Action Comics and Detective Comics, which are going from where they're currently at issue like 50 and 51, back to 900 and whatever, where they would have been in the original continuity.
So they're ignoring those 50...
No. Like, those 50 are built into the number of what it would have
Oh, okay, so if it was at 900 now, it's at 9... Now, next one's going to be 952.
Yes. And then he said basically what it is they're rebuilding the universe, sticking with what they have, with what works and what used to work, and melding it together.
Okay.
So it's like, what he compared it to is he kind of relaunched Green Lantern 10 years ago, and it was called Green Lantern Rebirth. And he compared it to that, where it was like, in the comics, Hal Jordan Green Lantern had been dead for years, hadn't been in the comics. A bunch of other Green Lantern characters hadn't been in the comics, Sinestro, etc. And he brought all them back, but he kept the Green Lantern Kyle Rayner that had been in comics for 15 years that people loved. He kept him in continuity, and they made it all cohesive together. And he said that that's what they want to do for the entire DC universe. Bring back what was lost in the New 52, but keep what works in the New 52. And that could be a really good thing, or that could be really confusing.
Yeah.
Like you, who were like, maybe if they did reboot it, maybe that'd be a good place for me to start. I'm not so sure.
Now I'm like,
I don't know.
what counts, what doesn't, where do I go from here?
In May, it starts with an 80-issue event called Rebirth.
Okay.
80-page issue.
Okay.
On Free Comic Book Day. And we'll see. But I wanted to update people. It's not a reboot.
Yeah.
But it is a reboot. No matter what they say. That's a reboot.
Yeah.
They're putting everything back to number one. It's going to be a new continuity, a new universe. That's a reboot.
That's weird.
Whether or not they want to call it that. Alright, and the last bit of news.
Okay.
Episode 8 has started filming.
Yes.
And we got a pretty sweet small video announcing this. And if you haven't seen it, you should check it out. But also, what it shows us is the first day of shooting, which is right back at the end of Force Awakens.
Yep.
Everybody's seen it by now. But if you somehow haven't, maybe this is a good place to stop watching until you do and go watch it, because it's great. But now we know that there will be a continuation of how that movie ends, which is good news.
Yeah.
Because I want to see what happens next. And what we also learned is Benicio del Toro is officially part of Episode 8, and Laura Dern also joined the cast.
Yeah.
Dr. Ellie Sattler from Jurassic Park, as well as other things. What do you think?
I'm interested. I'll be curious to see kind of what they do with like the scroll and setting up the story, because usually, all the movies, there's like some time has passed. And the one thing I think of is if they set it up where, because you don't really see how much time is between them finding the map and them actually arriving at Luke's place. So I can see them doing like, Kylo Ren has been off doing this and these people have been doing that, and Rey has arrived now to find Luke, and then it opens up with her, like, so because we don't know what the timeline really is.
Yeah.
How long it took them to...
Or they could have that scene and then it flashes forward 5 years.
Yeah.
Or it's just literally just a direct continuation. It could be in it that would be unknown for that never happens in Star Wars. And part of the crazy thing about that is they love having those gaps in time, because then they have those like they can do 1 million comic books and TV series and books about filling in the gap. And if there's no gap, then they can't do any of that.
And it's also never tied them down to have to do a specific story either. It's like, we have to start here. It's kind of like we can start wherever we want and do.
It's
whatever.
exciting though.
Yeah.
And that video, like, even though it's so short, just like seeing Luke and Rey, and then it just pulls back and it's cut, and it's Ryan Johnson. He's like, that's the first day in the books or whatever, and it's like, oh my god, and then it just says 8. Can't wait to see the title. Hopefully soon.
Yeah, we're probably coming up on...
Probably
That's
maybe a
huge.
Star Wars Celebration, which is coming up in
Yeah.
Germany. So, super excited. And you know what that means? Star Wars news is probably back every
Yeah.
week in the news
It was
segment.
gone for a little bit, but...
Yeah, we had a couple weeks without it. After 20 weeks with it or whatever.
Yeah, just can't escape it.
But that's the news for this week.
Mhm.
Did I miss anything significant?
Not that I can think of. The other one was a couple big things for the stuff we're going to talk about
Yeah, we're going to talk
later on. So
Cool. So that's the news. But what did we miss? What
Yeah.
did you know, if there's stuff you want to hear us talk about, just tweet at us during the
Mhm.
week. Be like, can you cover this? And maybe we will.
Yeah.
And you can tweet at me. I'm at Stonks.
I'm at Rich Belson, and the channel is on Twitter at OABeer_official. You can also email us at overbeerofficial@gmail.com. We're also on Instagram now at over_a_beer. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/overbeer, and you can find us on YouTube by clicking on this video or searching on YouTube for Nerd Herders, Over Beer, all that stuff. Like I said, every week we need 100 subscribers to make our YouTube URL. So if you like our videos, please share them with your friends and subscribe to the channel. But until next time, I think that's going to wrap things up. So we'll see you guys later.